In this podcast episode, cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman explores the nature of human perception, consciousness, and reality, challenging widely held assumptions about what we see and experience. Drawing on evolutionary theory, neuroscience, and physics, Hoffman presents the provocative idea that the reality we perceive is not the true nature of existence, but rather a user interface, a headset that helps us survive and navigate life. He discusses the implications of this view for understanding the mind, science, spirituality, and how we might optimize our lives by recognizing our deeper selves beyond the physical avatar we inhabit. Hoffman begins by questioning the common assumption that humans perceive reality as it truly is. Contrary to the intuitive belief that seeing the world accurately is advantageous for survival, he explains that evolutionary theory, when analyzed mathematically, suggests that the probability of any organism evolved to perceive objective reality is essentially zero. Evolution favors fitness and survival, not truth. Sensory systems have been shaped not to reveal reality, but to create simplified, useful interfaces that guide organisms toward reproductive success. This insight implies that the physical world we see, tables, chairs, people, is a constructed interface, analogous to a virtual reality headset designed for playing the game of life. Hoffman also discusses the limits of our current scientific understanding of space and time, explaining that fundamental physical theories, such as general relativity and quantum mechanics, assume spacetime as fundamental. However, at extremely small scales, known as the Planck scale, spacetime loses operational meaning, effectively breaking down. Attempts to probe these scales with higher energies result in phenomena like black hole formation, which destroy the very information scientists seek to observe. This indicates that spacetime itself is not the ultimate fabric of reality, but rather a construct emerging at accessible scales, reinforcing Hoffman's argument that what humans perceive is a limited, constructed interface rather than the full truth. Contrary to materialist views that claim the brain produces consciousness, Hoffman argues that consciousness is fundamental and does not arise from neural activity. He suggests that neurons and brain processes are part of the virtual reality headset, existing only as perceptions within consciousness. If no one perceives neural activity, it doesn't exist. The brain serves as hardware within this interface, influencing behavior and experience, but not generating consciousness itself. Hoffman advocates rigorous neuroscience to reverse engineer this hardware as a means to better understand the software, the deeper consciousness, that renders the experience of the brain and the world. To make his ideas accessible, Hoffman uses the metaphor of a video game VR headset. Just as a player wearing a headset perceives a game world, cars, roads, and objects that do not exist outside of the game's coding, human beings perceive a three-dimensional physical world via their sensory headset. The real underlying reality is a form of consciousness or information processing far beyond physical space and time. Each individual is an avatar within this interface, controlled by a deeper consciousness that can, in principle, take off the headset. This metaphor highlights that most of what we take as reality, including objects and even ourselves as physical beings, is a constructed representation rather than fundamental existence. Hoffman describes one consciousness manifesting through many different avatars and headsets, with Earth's familiar space-time headset being just one of countless possible realities. Other headsets may have vastly different dimensions or rules, and consciousness can choose to experience these varied perspectives. The work of Hoffman and collaborators aims to mathematically model all possible consciousness structures, demonstrating how spacetime and physicality emerge from underlying conscious processes. He hints at the possibility of transcending current limitations by understanding and manipulating these structures, perhaps even accessing higher dimensional headsets. On a personal level, Hoffman emphasizes the importance of recognizing ourselves as the watcher of thoughts and emotions, rather than identifying fully with the avatar or the contents of experience. He shares how meditative practices that cultivate silence and detachment from fleeting thoughts can help one see emotions, anger, frustration, joy, not as intrinsic selfhood, but as transient phenomena passing through the field of awareness. This shift fosters peace, compassion, and the capacity to transform negative emotions into positive energy, providing practical tools for navigating the challenges of life. Hoffman acknowledges that many people struggle deeply with painful identities formed through upbringing, trauma, or personal setbacks. For those carrying burdens of worthlessness or failure, stepping back and seeing oneself as the infinite consciousness beyond the avatar can be a difficult but ultimately liberating process. He draws analogies to childhood experiences, where emotional upheavals feel overwhelming but are, in hindsight, trivial parts of a game being played. Through patience, silence, and self-compassion, individuals can awaken to their true nature, transcending limiting stories imposed by external or internal forces. Hoffman envisions a future where the rigor of scientific mathematics and the insights of spiritual traditions come together to deepen humanity's understanding of consciousness and reality. He envisions mathematical models of consciousness that will not only explain the emergence of spacetime in physics, but also enable technologies that might appear magical by today's standards. He underscores the shared core of spirituality and science as love and unity, recognizing that others are fellow avatars of the same underlying consciousness, encourages cooperation, and dissolves antagonism. While many scientific theories attempt to explain consciousness as emerging from physical processes in the brain or quantum effects, Hoffman points out that none have succeeded in providing mathematically precise accounts of specific conscious experiences. Despite decades of effort by brilliant researchers, these theories fail to explain the subjective nature of experience, what philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness. Hoffman advocates for models that take consciousness as fundamental and spacetime as emergent, a perspective that may resolve these long-standing challenges. Hoffman encourages cultivating the habit of stepping out of identification with thoughts and feelings through continuous practice in silence and mindfulness. This allows an individual to become the watcher, increasing emotional resilience and enabling a fuller, more joyful engagement with life. He emphasizes that while we are avatars within a cosmic game, recognizing our greater identity as the author of the game provides freedom, compassion, and a foundation for authentic relationships and abundance. Hoffman is actively developing a mathematical framework called trace logic to rigorously describe consciousness and its relation to the physical world. This research, housed within the soon-to-be-launched Trace Institute, aims to bridge cognitive science and fundamental physics, offering a new paradigm for understanding how space-time and reality emerge from conscious processes. This approach promises advancements that may revolutionize technology and deepen our grasp of existence. When asked about his final reflections, Hoffman highlights love as the ultimate truth and guiding principle. To love one's neighbor as oneself encapsulates the unity of all conscious beings sharing this cosmic game. He defines true greatness as complete humility, recognizing one's infinite nature while seeing others as equals, transcending arrogance and division. This perspective, he suggests, forms the foundation for personal peace and collective progress beyond the limitations of ego and material identification.